And so my name is Kayla Walsh. I'm a staff member on our environmental review team here at Environmental Quality Board. And this is how we expect you to be able to participate today. Again, that reminder, our webinar is now being recorded. And that's meant so that it can be posted online and referenced in the future. So at any time today, if you have a comment or a question, please feel free to use the chat feature in the circle on the left. That should be in your bar of actions on the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. And so you can put a question in the chat at any time. And you can also raise your hand during our question and answer session at the end of today's presentation. And we'll answer both chat and verbal questions at that time. And today you're going to hear some presentations from myself and our team members, and there will be plenty of background information and how-to guidance on how to use the submittal service. And I will start off by providing some basic information about the Environmental Quality Board itself before we dive into the monitor. So first and foremost, the Environmental Quality Board, or EQB, is an 18-member board made up of state agency heads and one public member from each of Minnesota's 8 congressional districts. Including our executive director, there are 9 staff that support the board and their activities. The board promotes multidisciplinary interaction between state agencies and serves as a forum for public engagement in environmental decision-making. So broadly speaking, the board is charged with the responsibility to address intersectional issues affecting our water, land, air, energy, and climate. And EQB recently updated our strategic plan that guides our mission, vision, and values through June 2029. Our mission is to support informed decision-making that protects and enhances Minnesota's environmental quality, and we accomplish that through these values of collaboration, engagement, equity, and trust. So EQB works to foster meaningful conversations, support collaborative policy and program development, and then ensure that we have an effective environmental review program. Next slide. So these are our legislative guideposts. Minnesota Statute 116C is what really establishes the board, its membership, its powers and duties. And then Minnesota Statute 116D is referred to as MEPA, the Minnesota Environmental Policy Act. And MEPA gives EQB the authority to make rules for environmental review. And those rules are found in Chapter 4410. And that's where you'll find all of the requirements and procedures for implementing Minnesota's environmental review. The EQB is the coordinating body for the environmental review program, and that was established over 50 years ago. So our environmental review program is entirely separate from the federal program. Minnesota is one of 16 states with our own environmental review program. An environmental review in Minnesota is an information gathering process. It provides decision makers and the public with information they need to properly understand any project's interaction with the environment. An environmental review is meant to really inform communities and decision makers and project proposers for a very wide variety of projects during their design phase. Environmental review requires public processes. And when a project is undergoing environmental review, government agencies are not allowed to issue final approvals, and construction cannot begin until environmental review is complete. So we always like to remind folks that it's important that projects do not pass or fail environmental review. It's not an approval process, but it is an information gathering process. And a really key phase of that process is when a document is noticed in the EQB Monitor, because in a lot of cases, this starts a public review process or initiates other timelines that need to be followed by rule. And so with that, next we're going to hear from my colleague, Sarah Larrell, who provides education and technical assistance for completing environmental review. And she's going to get down to the nuts and bolts on exactly how to do that in the monitor service. So thanks, Sarah.
Thanks so much, Kayla. Like Kayla said, we are going to do a nuts and bolts overview of Minnesota Rule 4410-1500 and how you use the monitor to fulfill your requirements. I'm Sarah Larrell. I provide technical assistance for responsible government units, or RGUs, members of the public, consultants, and more as part of the EQB's environmental review team. Today, we will be looking at the fundamentals of providing that public notice using the monitor. And this really is going to be a nuts and bolts overview. We're going to go over a submission step by step. Our goal in doing this webinar is that RGUs and consultants feel confident in their abilities and can navigate the service with ease. If you get stuck, you can always call us. Our presentation today will begin by looking at the rule itself, and then why we need to use the EQB Monitor. We'll look at what the EQB Monitor is and how we navigate to it, make sure everyone knows how to find it. We'll get a user set up if you're a first-time user. We'll get you registered to use the submittal service. Then we're going to go through an example EAW and walk through the steps of posting your information. And then finally, we'll submit and then have an open questions and troubleshooting period. So here is the heart, the beginning of where it all starts. Again, environmental review is an information gathering process. It has built-in opportunities for the public and interested agencies to provide comments on development projects in Minnesota. So each environmental review process, including the environmental assessment worksheet or EAW, the environmental impact statement or EIS, and the alternative urban area-wide review or the AUAR, they all have very specific procedures that are prescribed in Chapter 4410, but all the procedures are based on this core in 4410-1500. So the rule reads that the RGU, the responsible government unit, shall provide one copy of the EAW to the EQB staff within 5 days after the RGU approves the document. This copy will serve as notification to staff to publish the notice of availability in the monitor. At the time of submission of the EAW to the EQB staff, the RGU shall also, and then there are a list of other things that I'm just going to touch on briefly so we know about them in the context of the monitor. At the time that you submit to the staff here, you can also distribute to our distribution list. Part B of the rule says to publish a notice in the paper of general circulation or post it on your RGU's official website. Part C has you providing a press release. So again, today we're going to focus on our item A, how to get your things in the monitor, but it's important to understand in the general context that there are a lot of notifications that are required when you're completing your environmental review processes. Kayla said this before, but we're going to review it again. The EQB Monitor is published weekly. It's via an email. You can get on that at a Gov Delivery. We'll show you where that's located. It comes out every Tuesday at noon, and it is the Environmental Quality Board's official environmental review notice and announcements. The submissions are due by 4 p.m. the Tuesday prior to when it's going to be in the monitor. So typically Tuesdays can be a busy time for submittals, and we encourage folks to start early, especially if you're a new user. The image on the right is what the monitor looks like when it's delivered into your inbox. So it'll come right from a Gov Delivery directly to it. It will have project announcements at the top and then notices, the official notices at the bottom. EQB accepts announcements and documents only through the submittal service. When you go through the submittal service and you hit submit, in the big picture of things, it does two things. The first, it sends your information to the EQB Monitor, and that'll fulfill your requirements. And then secondarily, it is an opportunity for those project notices to get archived. Information will go into the environmental review database that we have. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So we're going to go straight from the top, how you get there. If you go to the EQB website, eqb.state.mn.us, this is what our website looks like. I've circled in red a couple of places where you can find the EQB Monitor. So right at the top or down at the bottom under quick links, they also have a circle on the database as well. When you get there, you when you click on the EQB Monitor, it'll bring you to the Monitor page, and you can subscribe right away. The Gov Delivery link is at the top of the page. The next part coming down, you can always find the current issue of the Monitor located right at the top. Next is the current year. So we have an archive for 2025. Below that are the next 2 years, going back to 2023 and 2024 archive. If you have needs for archived records beyond that, you can go ahead and give us a call or an email, and we can always look into those for you. The environmental review database is something that we don't want to ignore. Although this presentation focuses on the monitor itself, we would be remiss if we didn't show you one of the most helpful features that we have for environmental review practitioners, especially if you are RGU staff and you may be new to the process, and maybe you find yourself having to complete an EAW or other environmental review document. The database stores environmental review documents and decisions for each project that undergoes review in Minnesota. There is a search function. When you click on it, it goes into a search function, and it allows you to look for projects that have completed review and those that are currently undergoing the process. It allows you to enter in information by project name. You can look it up under RGU. You could even search for a mandatory category type. There's all kinds of different ways to search the data. It does provide permanent access to all environmental review documents for each project. So that's gives a little bit more context to why the submittal is so important. We want to make sure that we're documenting and keeping the right and accurate information. This library of usable information is available to the general public as well as practitioners. The display on it right now is limited to 125 characters, but if you are 125 projects, but if you are seeking something, again, feel free to reach out and we can look into that for you. So RGUs are the ones typically, or their consultants, that are submitting documents to the EQB. And so we're going to take it from the top here with our ready to submit checklist. You know how to get to the monitor from the web page, and we're almost ready to enter our information. There are some things that it's helpful to have at your fingertips. The first is the submittal guide. There is a written guide that goes along with this. So it's a PDF document located on the environmental review monitor page right underneath the submittal tab. The next thing you're going to want to have handy are all your project details and documents. So typically, most of this information is located in the EAW itself, but be prepared to have that information so that you can copy and paste and drop in. You'll need project detail, project contacts, including email addresses and names for folks that you want to be notified when you've completed your environmental, or include when you've completed your monitor posting. It'll have project link information, all the links to the project documents if you're going to be hosting them on a city or community website. You will have documents that you'll be uploading, and those need to be in a single PDF document. And then lastly, if you have public information, it'll be public meeting information, you'll be entering that into the monitor submittal as well. So taking it from the top, we've got the monitor. You're going to click on the monitor. It goes to the monitor page. Then you are going to choose the blue button for the EQB Monitor submission service. And when you get there, it's going to pop up to the actual login for the submission service itself. If you're a new user, don't worry. We're going to walk you through getting registered to use the submittal service. You don't have a username or a login yet, so you're going to choose the register button that's circled in red. When you get to the register page, it is going to come up from the Minnesota Pollution Control Online Services. Just to note that the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is different from the Environmental Quality Board. They are the host of our information, but they are not the same as us. And when you submit to the monitor, it is not a submission to the Pollution Control Agency. Rather, it is to the Environmental Quality Board. So you're going to be setting yourself up an account, and it's going to ask you for your first name, your last name, your email, and then your username. You can totally use your email as your username if you desire. You'll be doing a password and then, of course, confirming your password. This is important. You're going to want to keep track of those usernames. The passwords, when you're doing your password, the only thing, it does need to have 1 digit, but otherwise it'll step you through that. So a few minutes after you hit the register button, you're going to receive an email, and it's going to come from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's online services. So make sure you're looking for that in your inbox. It will contain a link that is active for 24 hours, and you need to click on that link, and it'll let you confirm your registration. Once you've confirmed your registration, it is going to allow you to log in. So that's your first step. You need to do that. And another reminder, EQB staff are unable to help with issues with usernames and passwords. That goes through our online submittal IT staff. So if you lose it, you end up having to work directly with a state enterprise IT desk, and they're awesome. They're great, but it may cause delay. So make sure that you are saving your username and password on a Post-it, in a document, whatever works for you. After you finish your registration, there is a one-time step that can sometimes trip people up. You will log into your account, and then when it comes up, it's going to say Add Online Service on the far right. You need to click that button. It will have a drop-down menu. You're going to choose the Environmental Quality Board Submittal and click on it. It then will show up here as Environmental Quality Board Submittal right here. And in order to get started, you're just going to come over here and you're going to click Launch. From then on, you will have the EQB submittal service in your dashboard, we call it, and you'll be ready to go. At this point, we'll be into the service, and I want to just demonstrate live how each part of the process goes. And then when this is complete, we'll go through what you'll get for confirmation. So I am going to launch my direct desktop here, and I do have it in test mode, so you won't be seeing that test when you enter into your dashboard, but you'll log in with your username and password and hit login. And here is your dashboard. It's going to look like this. It has a little bit of information up there. It reminds you of the due dates if you need to. And today we are going to be putting in an EAW. 80% of all the notices that we get are EAWs, so we're going to go ahead and pretend that we are submitting one of those. You can choose whichever form of environmental review you're trying to post. We're going to click on the EAW, and this is where the information is going to go. So if we look across the top, you are going to need to have your project detail. You're going to need to have all your contacts for your EAW submittal. You'll have project location information. You will have the document itself, the EAW document, any information about your public meetings, and then at the end of this, there is a project summary. So our first thing is to enter in our project detail, and I have grabbed a EAW that just happened to be the one that I clicked, and this one is a project that is entitled Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs Hastings Campus Upgrade. So the nice thing about that project title is that it says what it is and who's doing it. The project description below is important. Once the project description is in, it cannot be edited. So we ask that folks take good care with your project description. You have 950 characters that you get to use. And I am going to copy and paste from my EAW for my project description. When I paste it in there, I'm going to use this scroller to come up to the top. And anytime you're cutting and pasting, of course, just go ahead and reread it through. Make sure that it has the project description as you want it. The next part coming down is, does this project have a consultant? We're going to pretend that we do. So we're going to click yes. And then we can save. And anytime you click save, if you're unclear about whether it's saved, check up here in the right-hand corner. It'll give you a little message. So that gave me a green bar. I know I'm good to go. Next, we're going to go into the contacts. The person uploading this is typically the responsible government unit or a consultant on their behalf. So we're going to add the responsible government unit. The submittal service does allow you to save as a favorite any contact information. So you can see I have a couple of different ones saved here. I chose one from my favorites, but for the first time, go ahead and submit all of your information. The RGU username is required. And so for me, my username was my email. That's a nice way for me to keep it simple. So I'm going to put my RGU username. I have an email address there. Maybe I would like to add a few other folks from my organization. So I'm going to put in my boss, Catherine Nuschler, the director of the EQB. So when I submit this, Catherine Nuschler will also receive an email. Scrolling down, organization name, and you'll be filling this out. I'm going to take a shortcut and I'm going to populate it using my auto populate. The organization type for me gives you several different options. I am state government, so I'm going to choose that. I double check the address. This is the address for the Duluth office where I work from. And I've got a phone number and extension. I'm going to click save. Oh, the data was not saved. I must have missed a field, so I'm going to go back. It does require me to have a state in there and the country. We'll save. Sometimes it'll give you a better address to work from. Yes, success. I have saved it. Next, we have the project proposer. In the case of some state agencies or local units of government, you're going to be proposing your own project. So here you're going to put in your information here. If it's a private organization or a private proposer, you'll have that information as well. I'm going to use my favorites. The favorites you can choose here from the top ones that you have saved, or you can even use from the current submittal. So I'm going to put in a shortcut. I'm going to go through, scroll all the way down to the bottom and make sure that that looks good. Perfect. The last thing we're going to add is our RGU consultant. And maybe I'll skip that. Maybe I'm not sure right now. We'll see what happens when we skip a field towards the end. I'm going to go to the project location next. The project location is important because it populates our EQB database map, the project location map. And it's also going to be going into that permanent archive. So there are a number of ways that you can get your project location into the database. The coordinate system you can choose here. I'm going to do latitude, longitude with decimal degrees. Typically, an EAW does have this location information right there in the beginning. You can type it in manually if you like, the latitude and longitude, or we do have a map here that allows you to choose the point. I'm going to show you, I chose a point here in kind of northern Minnesota, and I'm going to zoom in, and it's going to allow me to get all the way down to my project, like right there at my project, but it does require me to be at a zoom level that is level 17. Right now I'm at level 10, so I want to see if I can get a little closer, make sure I'm doing it right. And I'm right here in the woods. You can click on the dot and it's going to show you what your zoom level is. I'm going to click on that dot. And once I've gotten it to a zoom level that is acceptable, I'm going to press the save, and that will automatically put all of my information right here in the project location for me. My project does need to have an address, and so I'm going to come down here, and our address can be, you know, whatever that is. I'm going to choose my own office address, even though we know that's not the location. A description is provided sometimes because there might be another description that's more apt or works best for where the project is right now. So you can add descriptions such as located at the junction of maybe County State Aid Highway 64 and Sarah Street. So you can add that level of information, whatever you'd like to put in there for your project location description. And we do have to select the counties where the project is located. Let's select Clay County, and maybe it is, you know, somehow has some connections to other counties. You can also mark that there. We're going to press save. I always double check that the green is saving successfully. And then if we go to the next, this is our actual EAW information. So it's going to ask you a couple of key things. Is this a joint federal and state review? Most EAWs are not joint reviews. Typically, joint reviews are going to be received when a project has federal implications or federal funding. A lot of our partners, such as MnDOT, will commonly have a joint review. In my case, for my EAW, no, it is not a joint review. The next question is the date the submittal is approved by the RGU. This is when you have all your documents in a row. You've received and gone back and forth with your project proposer, and the EAW is complete. We're going to select the date. We'll say it was yesterday. And then we do have to choose our reason for preparation. So the reasons for preparation are typically a mandatory EAW. It could also be a discretionary EAW if an RGU orders that because of a potential for environmental effects. It may be an EAW that was ordered as a result of a petition process, or a discretionary EAW that was proposed by a project proposer themselves. Today, we're going to go with the mandatory category. And when I select the mandatory category, because my EAW is required, it gives you every single mandatory category option that you can have. Don't be overwhelmed. It'll probably be listed in your EAW itself. So you're going to go down and choose. For the EAW that I'm working with, I know it is a historical place, subpart 31, so I will check the box next to that. Then we're going to keep on rolling. This is the spot where you're uploading your document. If you have any problems with any part of these steps, including uploading, simply reach out. Occasionally, folks have a network speed issue or otherwise. But to upload your document, you do need to have the EAW all in one document, in one PDF document. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to choose the upload button. And I am going to choose this document that I have here, just right there. It's going to upload it. This one went very quickly. If you have a document that is big, the submission service should be able to take it. I think it goes all the way up to like 2 gigs. So size shouldn't limit, but sometimes network speed can be a problem. It makes it difficult for folks to upload. So once it's uploaded, it will show you here what the document is, the name and title. And that's all you need to do. Down here, it does ask for the location of public documents. So in your municipality or your county or what have you, you'll have a location where public documents need to be available for the public to come and look at. So your location name might be the city hall or another location where that's located. I have my city where I'm located has a city hall where those are. And the address for that, again, you're going to want to make sure you're being careful because you don't want to auto-populate these things. This is going to have its own address here, and it'll be, 1000 Pretty City Way. And you do need to choose your city or your town. We'll make that my hometown of Duluth. And then we're going to save it. Yes, it's got a green square up in the corner, and I know it's saved successfully. I can click to the next screen. And this is a public meeting screen. For an EAW, it's not necessarily common that an EAW does have a public meeting, but it's available. EISs are required to have a public meeting. AUARs often also have public meetings. If you have a public meeting, you can choose here whether it's an online meeting only, or you can choose all the location for an in-person meeting. It provides avenues for you to link, put in the date and time, and then any additional instructions. So that's available for you. I'm not going to do one, so I can actually just red X out of that, and I'm going to move on from my public meetings. The next screen is going to be a summary. So I am going to scroll through and look at my project detail, my project description, and all of my contact information to make sure that it is accurate. When completed, I'm going to hit the submit button at the bottom of the screen. Oh no, I didn't do something. It's going to give you a red message across the top if there is a field that is required that isn't filled out. So we have our red strip at the top, and then it also puts a little dot there next to where my contact. I forgot to add my RGU consultant. So I'm going to go ahead and add that information in. I'm going to save it. Oh, there's a few things I haven't done. Why don't I do from current submittal? Perfect. So now I have my RGU information that's in there. I'm going to go down to the end, that summary, make sure it showed up there. Everything looks pretty good to me, and I am going to hit submit. We're going to scroll back to the top of the screen. When your submittal is successful, it's going to give you a green bar. It's going to let you know that it has worked. We're going to pop out of the live demo now, and then there are some additional steps that you need to watch for to make sure this monitor submittal is completed. You are going to receive a confirmation email from the submittal service itself. It's going to again come into your inbox as MPCA online services. So you're going to watch for that. The service will include your copy of records. So basically a printout or a PDF copy of everything that you entered. You'll want to save those for your records. The email itself reminds you again of your deadlines. The 12 noon submissions are due by 4 p.m. on Tuesday. And then it gives you EQB contact information in case you're having any issues there. You will receive one additional message, and this is going to be from our staff itself. It'll be Hazel, who typically, or the EQB Monitor inbox. This message is going to come straight to you, and it's going to request that you look over what we are going to put into the monitor. So on the right-hand side will be an image of your email that's going to have your project description as it will appear in the Environmental Quality Monitor. We ask that you check the project location map, make sure it's in the right spot, and then go over what Hazel has sent you. Make sure that any links that you've included in your document are going to be live by Tuesday at noon. That's the date of publication. We ask that when you get this, you take a look at it and reply promptly so we know if we have things right. Sometimes if there's been an issue with the submittal service, we are still able to use the monitor itself and make corrections in that copy of it for you. So again, don't ever hesitate to reach out if you have questions about how that looks. After you've submitted and your documents go live on the monitor for an EAW, you'll have a 30-day comment period. When you're ready to go back in and have your next step in the process, when you log into the submittal service, it will have populated your next step for you. So in the EIS or in the EAW project list, when you scroll down, step 2 will be there under EIS needs decision. Those will be the next documents that you'll need. The screen will look very similar to what we just saw, but it'll ask you for slightly different things. So with that, we've gone through kind of the formal part of this process. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to turn it over to my colleague Jessie, and we'll also be able to take any questions that you might have about the EQB submittal service. And then Jessie will do some troubleshooting live in person here as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. I am going to hopefully share my screen now. I'm in the lovely world of working in the office today, and so I only have one screen. So Sarah, could you let me know that I am sharing my screen properly?
Jessie, it looks great. We are at the
Perfect.
EQB Monitor submittal.
That's where I want to be. So for the most part here for the last few minutes, I'm just going to play around and kind of show some tips and tricks and point out, a lot of the typical mistakes that we might see and hopefully give you some ways on how to resolve those. Um, at this time, if you have any questions while I'm walking through this, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and Kayla or Sarah will shout at me to answer your questions. So I'm right here to start off. I wanted to point out sort of the two different types of sign-ons. Now, if you have a state email address, this actual MPCA sign-on button works for you. I know it just says MPCA sign-on, and that's a little bit of a frustrating piece there, but that will work for you if you have a state email address. So feel free to just utilize that to log in, or even just to create your account. This blue button there should just start it. If you do not have a state email address, then you'll have to go through and do the usual register and log in on this side, as Sarah walked us through earlier. But I'm going to start and just log in so we can get into this and take a peek at some things. So I'm going to back up to go to this page as a reminder that that first step that you're doing, you got to make sure that you add this online service. This is one of the biggest errors or mistakes that we see, is people get too far ahead of themselves and they forget to do this little step. And so you need to add the Environmental Quality Board submittal in here, and that'll get you going. So reminder to do that first. But I'm going to log in here and show you what it looks like on your dashboard. Now, I have quite a few projects in here. Likely yours won't look like this because I have helped a lot of people. So but once you start utilizing the system, you'll see that these active projects will start to exist. Like Sarah noted, after you submit an EAW, you'll log in again to do your next step and access them. This way, you will not start again at a next step by pushing one of these buttons. These are just for new notices for new projects. So the very first notice of your project. I do want to point out in the EIS, if you're doing, different projects that are quite a bit longer than the EAW, Sarah noted that that project description box is locked after this first step. So when you're writing those project descriptions, try to be mindful of that. We do understand that, as an EIS progresses, especially through the scoping phase, that things may change. If that happens, contact us and we might have some workarounds to help. But just a quick note that I wanted to point out. Now, I'm going to get into things that I think are most useful for folks, and that will be dealing in your work in progress and how to share. Typically, when people get errors, the easiest way to do or to assist, oh boy, of course we're going to get a spinning wheel. The easiest way to assist is to share that cart or that project with one of the environment review staff, and we can usually assist. Oh, this is, really great. I'm going to try and go somewhere else and see if I can get it to load. You know what? I'm just going to start a new one. So something to think about when you're working through your submittals is the save button. Now, after you saved it, it does require something new to happen in order for you to save again. So if you've already saved it and then you haven't done anything else, um, you will have to actually enter more or new information in order for that save button to come back alive. But usually when you do that save, you can then get to your work in progress. There it is. Look at that. All right, so now we're back into where I wanted to be in the first place. So if you started a submittal and you didn't get to finish it, or you're just kind of getting ahead of yourself, when you log in, you can see your name here. That work in progress tab is where it'll bring you to those saved tests. So sorry, those saved submittals. Now, one of the big ticket items that I mentioned is the sharing function. Now, this can serve a couple of purposes. Say you're not sure you're going to actually finish the submittal. You're taking a vacation, so you just started it and you'd like somebody else to finish it. This is a really useful place to do that. Now, it does require them to have a username in order to share that project. Um, but in terms of sort of mitigating issues that arise from users, this is environmental review. EQB staff most use function in assisting is to just share the project with us. So you have to call us and tell us that there's an error. We'll help you walk through this share function. And in there, you would just enter one of our usernames. We would share it with you. Mine is my email. Maybe I'll send it to Sarah since that's fun. You would simply just enter that, and this is where the system needs to know that it's a user. Otherwise, it won't allow you to share it. So they have to be registered. So at that point, you would share, and then EQB staff, if there was an error, we would be able to then log into our account and access that project and try to work through that issue that you may be having. Now, say you're just coming back to work on these things, there's just an option to come in here and edit. There's a couple things that I want to point out that we do see random kind of repeated errors in the context page. This is public. This comes in pre-filled, the United States of America. If you write this in yourself, there's a good chance it's going to be an error. So try to leave that alone. If you do end up erasing it, just make sure that you fill in the whole United States of America with capital letters. Otherwise, we get an error, and it's a really weird one, but it does happen fairly commonly. So just a little thing to pay attention to there. And then in this space where Sarah had pointed out that add email function is a really great tool if you don't know for sure if this project is going to continue in your name or if some other folks are going to be utilizing the submittal service as the project continues. So as you add these emails, it will then show up in on their dashboard as their works in progress. So another piece to be mindful of. In the project location, the whole idea of having the location description and the address line is that we recognize that not all projects that are going through environmental review actually have an address. So this location description can utilize a lot of different things. From parcel IDs or township and range and things of that nature to help describe where that project might be. But it does require, if you don't enter an address, it does still require you to enter a city or a township and a zip code. So just be mindful of that if you're only entering in the location description. Another thing I wanted to point out is that this submittal service as a whole is utilized by a number of different programs. So Sarah mentioned the database. Everything that is entered into the submittal service is then transferred over to the database. And so this information that we submit here is important to make sure that we aren't missing anything and we're following, submitting the correct information. So for instance, if you submit something here that's different, this is going to show up not only in the database, but then it'll also show up in the monitor with this information. And then thirdly, all the information that's submitted into this submittal service is utilized by staff for sort of end of the year reporting and things for us to analyze at the end of the year. So if we're getting misinformation is submitted in here, it really does impact a number of other areas. So just be mindful to take your time as you're going through these required pieces. This spot gets missed quite a bit. It's kind of hidden in there. So if you have pretty typically, our RGU will host their own website for a project. So just be mindful of that little space there. Sarah did hit pretty hard on the uploading documents. So I don't think that we need to go too much further into that, but this is certainly a space that we get quite a bit of errors on. For some reason, certain users are running into issues with attaching their documents. So we've just had quite a few workarounds where we managed to have the RGU share the document with environment review staff and then share the project through the submittal service, and we were able to upload that for them and finish the project. So just be mindful of that if you run into that error. We'll need a little bit of time, so don't be calling us at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday to try to make that happen. So that's probably my biggest tips that I wanted to come across. I do want to mention, so for bigger projects, things that aren't just an EAW and have a lot more steps. So if we're talking, an EIS, or even an alternative review, this is not my friend today. It is really important that we maintain access to these steps. So we have run into the past certain errors where, a project, like for instance, this was submitted, submitted in June of 2023, and there is likely, potential for turnover, staff turnover or whatnot. And so we've run into some issues where, new staff are trying to upload a draft EIS, but they don't necessarily have access to these earlier steps. And so you would need to contact us ahead of time to make sure that we can get you access to the proper thing, because we don't want a draft EIS being uploaded as an EIS scoping EAW, for instance. The submittal service doesn't like that. The database doesn't like that. And the monitor coming out doesn't like that. So there's just some issues that I wanted to highlight for, step projects that have more than one or two steps, especially when you have staff turnover. So be mindful of that sort of one path that it has to take. And with that, I think that's my biggest tips and tricks for the day. I'm going to try to put up our slideshow again. And so we can end with a thank you. I don't think I saw any hands, but as a reminder, as you're going through these, we are here to help. So please give us an email, a call, check our website. We're happy to help. We do it all the time. You may not, so we're there to help for sure. I see a hand. Teresa, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Hazel will unmute you. Nope, there you go. Now you can do it.
There. So this is on the MPCA online services. Is this the same as the e-services when you do permits through MPCA, or is this a different portal?
Some of them are the same. There are pieces in there. I think feedlots for sure utilize online service. There are a number of pieces on the PCA that utilize online services for their documentation and permit services. So that could be, you know, if you're utilizing, if you're a consultant and you're there for other reasons, you can add those to your already existing account. Just be mindful if you start making more than one account, then you might get a little bit confused. So that would be my little tip there.
Thank you.
See, Nicole Schwartz, I see your hand. I think Hazel will get you unmuted. Just a second, and go ahead.
Yeah, I have two questions, maybe less related to actually submitting, but related to the timeline of it. Wondering if you can give some context to Minnesota Rule 4410-1500. So it's stated that you have to submit to EQB within 5 days after the RGU approving the EAW. A lot of other things in that rule, like the 30-day comment period, as I understand, is calendar days. Is that also calendar days? Considering that the submission deadline is Tuesday at 4 p.m. You know, if the RGU signs it on a Wednesday and you wait to upload it till Tuesday, is that breaking the 5-day rule, or is that business days?
In rule, anything under 15 days is considered a business day. So 15 days and above is a calendar day, but anything under than that would be a business day. Now, some of those timelines can get a little bit wonky, especially those really short ones. So just give us a heads up and we'll be happy to, you know, try to sort that out with you. But yes, in general, anything other than 15 days is a business. And so typically we don't run into issues of you know, running past that timeline. We just, you know, typically provide guidance that as you approve an EAW and ready it for publication, that you should be pretty ready to send that to us at the same time.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And then kind of similar to that, also in 4410-1500, it states that you, within 5 days of submission to EQB staff, you do a press release. Is that generally interpreted to be 5 days from when you're actually submitting it to the service, or from when it gets uploaded in the EQB Monitor, you know, a week later?
I would say based on when you submit it to us. So by submitting to us, that would mean using the submittal service. Then that clock would start with your 5-day window to get that press release. So when I typically when I served as an RGU, I would usually have all those ready to go on the same day as best as I could.
I would only add that the question of day comes up a lot, and interpreting that can be difficult and dependent on your project and your timeline. So like Jesse mentioned, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And also Rule 4410-0200 does have a definition of day that you might find useful. And it states that the first day of the action is sort of a day zero. So that's also something to keep in mind.
Anybody else? Looks like we have about 5 minutes left in our hour-long period here. We're happy to answer any questions. If y'all feel good about using the service, feel free to get out there and submit some notices and give us an email or call when issues arise.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.